The border showdown between India and China is affecting the business world. Shares in Chinese gaming giant Tencent have fallen more than 2% after New Delhi slapped a ban on 118 Chinese apps, citing security concerns. The latest move targets the hit game PUBG by Tencent. Now, India is the game's most popular market with 50 million active users. Other apps, including WeChat and TikTok, had already been banned. Now, China has strongly condemned the move. Beijing says the ban violates the legal interests of mainland investors. Let's get more now from Dr. Amit Joshi. He is a professor of the Institute for Management Development Business School in Lausanne. Dr. Joshi, welcome. Now, India is saying that these newly blocked Chinese apps were stealing user data, threatening the country's security. Is that a credible take to you?
So the way I look at it is they were collecting data that most apps do, lots of data about their users, locations, as well as a bunch of other things. Would you call that stealing? I don't think so. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. I do think, however, that these apps were indeed collecting a ton of data on their users, 50 million plus users for PUBG, for example, which was worrisome to the government.
And what impact do you think this ban will have on Chinese tech companies? Many see India as a key growth market.
I think in the short term, the impact is going to be quite a bit, because as you've seen, this is the Indian market is pretty large for some of the Chinese apps. Apps like TikTok, PUBG are extremely popular in the country, and India, at the end of the day, represents a huge amount of volume of users, which obviously most apps, most platforms crave. So that in the short run is going to be a huge impact, which is obviously seen in the drop in stock price for organizations such as Tencent in the short run. I don't think there's going to be a massive long run impact, though, because in terms of monetization, in terms of finding new markets, the Chinese apps will find alternative sources of revenue. But in the short run, for certain, there's going to be a massive impact.
I'm wondering if there was another advantage to India. Could this move actually somewhat level the playing field for Indian apps?
It actually could, and this is something that a lot of advisors, a lot of watchers of Indian tech scene have recommended for a while. It has come about not in a business sense, but in a political sense. But it has, in a sense, given an impetus to, or at least a potential for an impetus to Indian startups. I mean, there is a possibility now that because of these apps being blocked, there is a chance for local developers to come up with alternatives for some of these things, which can only benefit the tech scene. And then if we go a little bit further and we think about not just apps, but startups, Indian competitions to apps like Alibaba or Baidu, which don't exist today by and large. Could this be something that really drives that particular growth? Too soon to tell, but perhaps in that context, it's a step in the right direction.
Well, Beijing has strongly condemned the ban for its part. Do you expect China to retaliate?
In the short term, again, I do expect some sort of retaliation. However, I do think that the scope for retaliation, at least in a business context, is a little limited. Now, the trade imbalance between India and China is heavily in favor of China. China exports a huge amount of quantity of stuff to India, both items such as everyday use items such as umbrellas and everyday goods, and fireworks, but also a huge amount of industrial goods, most notably the material, the goods that are required for India's massive pharmaceutical industry. Now, this is a double-edged sword. If China does things like increasing prices in India, that will force India to seek other suppliers, which is going to hurt China in the long run. The same thing goes for household goods or commonly used products like umbrellas or the knickknacks that come from China. So I think in the short run, there might be some action taken by China, but I don't think there's a whole lot of scope for retaliation from the Chinese at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Amit Joshi joining us tonight, a professor of IMD Business School from Lausanne.